Welcome to Guide to Points. Just a reminder to make sure to watch our other videos to learn how to make your travel dreams a reality. This video breaks down our trip to Paris, France. 2 people, 3 days, 4 nights for nearly free. My journey is not your journey. There are a lot of ways to redeem points, and you may find better redemptions than I did. This is just an example of how I happen to redeem my points for this particular trip. For our flights, we positioned to Las Vegas. And for those of you who don't know what a positioning flight is, it's when you take a short flight to another airport so you can then take another flight to get to your destination for a better redemption. In our case, we took a Southwest flight from Salt Lake to Las Vegas round trip and used the companion pass, which meant that one person flew for free. We redeemed 7,500 points from our Chase Sapphire Preferred card to my daughter's Southwest account because she's the one with the companion pass right now. So just a tip, she's an authorized user on that card, so you can transfer points from an authorized user to their individual airline or hotel accounts. This would have been $156.80 if we had paid cash, so it was a 2.09 cent per point redemption. Then, from Las Vegas, we were able to take a KLM Air France flight using Flying Blue miles. We used 75,000 points that we had originally transferred from Chase for our Rome, Italy trip for the first time when we ended up missing that flight. So those points were still sitting in my Flying Blue account, so we used those points. Also, because these international carriers usually have very high taxes and fees, we had to pay $1,028.40 for taxes and fees. However, I used my Capital One card to pay for those, so then I was able to use 102,840 points to erase them to make it $0. So the flight was really 177,840 points total. It would have been $3,422.40. So it ended up being a 1.92 cent per point redemption. For our hotel, I wanted to use Chase points, but I was a little low on those. So I ended up paying cash to stay at the Hyatt Regency Paris Étoile. It has rooms with a view of the Eiffel Tower, so it was totally worth it. And because I used my Capital One card, I could then erase that purchase with 106,065 points. So in other words, it would have cost $1,060.65, which was a 1 cent per point redemption. But again, to get this room with a view for free, I felt that was a great redemption. Now let's talk about activities and food and how you can get those for less. Major cities have a Go City Pass that allows you to get tickets for a discounted rate. We looked up the Paris Go City Pass and decided to get the 4-day all-inclusive pass, which includes over 80 different attractions and restaurants too. We used it for things like the Arc de Triomphe, the Louis Vuitton Museum, the River Seine Cruise, the Louvre Museum, the Opera House, a perfume workshop, the Eiffel Tower tour, the Chocolate Museum, and Notre Dame. One thing to note is that with this pass, there are activities that do require you to book in advance. One of these activities that we were going to do was the Louis Vuitton Foundation Museum, and our tour group actually ended up canceling that on us last minute. We didn't know that. I contacted them when they didn't show up at our meeting point, and they told me that they had canceled it and that I wouldn't be able to get my money back directly from them. They told me I would have to go through Go City, so I'm going to be working on that later to see if I can get some kind of reimbursement. Because we did decide to go on that tour anyway and just buy our own tickets to enter the museum. So this is just an example of how sometimes things don't work out as planned and you just have to roll with it. But a great thing about the Go City Pass for Paris was that it did include a lot of restaurants. So we got quite a few of our meals included. For example, we got 2 breakfasts, 3 lunches, 1 dinner, and 2 snack/desserts from the pass. So we ended up spending $579.92 on 2 of the passes for our activities and food. that was worth $834.96. So we ended up saving $255. We also did spend the money to get the tickets to the Dior gallery, which was not included on the Go City Pass. And then, of course, we ended up buying one breakfast just because it was in a more convenient location for us. And then we also ended up having to buy a lunch at the airport before we went home. Let's talk for a minute about some other ways that you can get free meals when you travel. Some premium cards have restaurant credits that you can use, and I happen to have the Chase Sapphire Reserve card that has a $150 open table restaurant credit. So before we went on our trip, I logged into the Chase portal, I clicked on that credit card, clicked on the benefits, and made sure that I had activated it if needed. And then I searched for restaurants in Paris, and we happened to find a restaurant called Emily's, and it looked really cute. It was by the Eiffel Tower, and my daughter's name is Emily. So we ate there one night, and it was a really fun experience. Our bill came to $109.69, and that credit will make it free. And of course, we've talked about airport lounges before. For example, when we flew out of Salt Lake City, we ate at the Centurion Lounge. I have the American Express Business Platinum card that gives me access to the Centurion lounges. If you spend $75,000 in a calendar year, then you can get 2 guests in for free for the next year. And I had done that, so we both could eat for free before we boarded our flight. Then in Las Vegas Airport, they have a Capital One lounge, and I have the Capital One Venture X business card. And I had also met the minimum spend to be able to get guest access on that card. So we were able to eat there for free while we were waiting for our connecting flight. Then on our way home in Las Vegas, we ate at the Chase Sapphire Lounge. I have the Chase Sapphire Reserve card, and it gives you 2 guests for free with no extra spend. So we were able to eat there on our way home during our layover. Also worth noting is that with a lot of cards, you get what's called the Priority Pass, which gets you into 1,700 club lounges worldwide. There was a club lounge in the Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris. However, it was in a different terminal, and we didn't feel like we wanted to go to that terminal and then have to go back through security in the international terminal to catch our flight. So that's why we just ate something at the airport. Airport food can be expensive, so it is nice if you can get into a lounge, even if it's just to get a quick snack or a drink. The next thing to talk about is transportation. We like to use the public transportation systems in big cities because it really is easy to navigate and it's pretty cheap. The Chase Sapphire Business Preferred Card has an annual $300 travel credit. I just passed my anniversary date, which meant that that benefit was active again. So what that means is that anything that codes as travel on my statement, like buses, trains, the metro, airline fees, I've even used it for Ubers before too. But you'll get a credit back, which makes it free. So we used that card on all of our buses and metro and trains, and we would have spent $199 for all of those. But instead, that travel credit made it free. Other costs will vary depending on what you decide to do at your destination. But we spent around $470 per person on other things. Things like, again, our taxes and fees for our flight. That was about $22.40. And then our food that we did have to buy, which was $52.47. For our activities, we had purchased that Go City Pass for $579.92. And then we did buy our tickets to that Louis Vuitton Museum and the Dior Gallery. That was about $78.45. Of course, you also have to plan on airport parking. This was about $73. And then, of course, your shopping and souvenirs. And then also, you need to think about an international cell phone plan. We spent $96 on this. We actually did try to do a SIM card that would have made it cheaper, but it would not activate. We couldn't get it to work. So we did end up just switching back to our mobile carrier and just using their daily allowance on our international plan. Also, I've been Booking travel insurance anytime we go outside of the United States, because for a medical emergency, your current insurance usually doesn't cover anything. So I have been doing travel insurance. It's fairly reasonable. Our travel insurance for this trip for both of us was only $37. So overall, we saved $4,926.11 for two people for 4 days in Paris. This video has helped you realize that your own travel dreams are possible with points. Keep following my Instagram and watching these course videos. Use my links in my link tree to get information on the best credit cards to apply for once you're ready to start your own points journey. And as always, remember that wherever your points take you, to enjoy the journey.